Namaste, welcome to my channel Soul Sauce. Thank you so much for being with me here today. Let's Talk is my segment where I sit down with you guys and talk and discuss regarding some of the current contemporary events and issues happening around the world. And today we're going to talk about the historical Ayodhya Verdict, which was given unanimously by the Supreme Court of India on the 9th of November 2019. Let's talk. 9th of November 2019 will remain as a landmark day in the history of India. This was the day that the Supreme Court gave a unanimous verdict regarding the Ayodhya land dispute. This is the oldest land dispute in India, which has been ongoing since 1855. I'll be talking about some of the key points in the history of the dispute and what exactly the verdict was that the Supreme Court gave. Make sure you stay till the end, as I will also be discussing some of the criticisms and some of the opinions and reactions from people. The dispute is between the Hindus, who believe that the land belongs to Rama, one of the chief deities of Hinduism, and that it is his birthplace, and the Muslims, who say that the land is legally theirs because of the presence of the mosque in it. I shall now highlight some of the key events in the history of this dispute. As mentioned, Ayodhya is one of the holiest cities of the Hindus. There are numerous records by Englishmen and English travelers like William Finch and Thomas Herbert, who speak of Ayodhya, who write about Ayodhya, and who talk about the Hindus' attachment of faith to it. It was in 1528 that Babur, the first Mughal ruler of India, ordered for the demolition of the temple and for the building of a grand mosque. This was carried out by his commander-in-chief, Mir Baqi. When we look at accounts left by travelers and other people after this, we do not find the mention of a temple or a castle in Ayodhya. For example, if you look at the accounts of Joseph Typhon Thaler, you do not find any mention of a temple or any other kind of similar structure, but there is definitely a mention of a mosque with 3 domes. It was in 1853 that the very first communal riots over the disputed land area began. The government in power at the time, which is the English East India Company, divided the structure and said that the Muslims could continue worshipping in the inner courtyard, whereas the Hindus could worship in the outer areas. In 1949, an idol of Rama was placed inside the mosque in the dead of night. Now this rendered the mosque unsuitable for worship by the Muslims after that. Now once the idol was already placed inside the mosque, thousands of Hindus started visiting the place to have a darshan. It was at this time that the government locked down the entire structure and declared it as a disputed land. This was followed by a lot of civil cases. In 1991, the land came under the complete control of the UP government. The next major event in the history of this dispute is on the 6th of December 1992. This was the day when a group of car sevaks forcibly entered into the area and began demolishing the mosque. This act triggered a lot of violence and communal riots all over India, killing thousands and thousands of people. In 2010, the Allahabad High Court, which was then dealing with the case, came to a conclusion. It divided the land area equally among the Hindus, the Muslims, and the Nirmohi Akhara, which by then were the 3 main parties who were fighting for the said area. Obviously, this wasn't accepted. Having remained unresolved since then, it was only on the 9th of November 2019 when the Supreme Court finally gave a unanimous verdict. The 5 judges who delivered the verdict are Chief Justice of India Ranjan Gogoi, Justice S.A. Bodwe, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice Ashok Bhushan, and Justice S. Abdul Nazir. Now what does the verdict say? According to the verdict, the entire disputed area has been given over to the Hindus for the construction of a Ram Mandir. It also comes with the orders to form a trust within 3 months, of which Nirmohi Akhara will also be a part of. The Muslims, represented by the Sunni Waqf Board, have been granted 5 acres of land at an alternate area in Ayodhya itself. And this will be for the construction of a grand mosque. Let's look at some of the reasons and the evidences given. The Supreme Court has stated that there has been no evidence given that the Muslims had conducted worship in the area prior to 1853, and also that there was no evidence given that the mosque was built on a vacant land. Now, the latter part of the reasoning was largely based on the evidence given by the Archaeological Society of India. The excavations done by them proved beyond doubt the existence of a structure beneath the mosque, and the evidences all depict Hindu motifs and design elements. Pillars engraved with the Purna Kalasha, which is a symbol of prosperity in Hinduism, are particular to temples of the 12th and 13th centuries. The pranali, or the structure which is used to take out the water used to bathe the deities in the temple, has also been found. Now, the Union Cultural and Tourism Minister has said that these findings will all be published in the form of a book for the general public. To know more about the details and the excavations, please have a look at the videos that I have linked below. The dispute has ended and the whole of India is celebrating. The most heartening fact is that so far, no disturbances have been reported. Largely, it is being touted as a very balanced and a mature judgment, and personally, I agree too. There could not have been a more just and a more secular way of resolving this issue. Even if you look at it from the point of view of faith, the fact that Rama was born in Ayodhya and has been worshipped there since centuries, it cannot be changed or altered, just as we cannot change the significance attached to the Vatican, to Mecca and Medina, or to Jerusalem. From the point of view of Muslims, Islam prohibits the building of a mosque on any other pre-existing structure. Now, the Mughal rulers might have done these to establish their authority, their administrative and their religious power over the culture that they were trying to subjugate. Also in Islam, apart from 2 or 3 key main mosques, there are no prescribed restrictions as to where a mosque has to be situated or has to be built. The Muslims' case has been fought for by a Hindu lawyer, and the Hindu case has been largely supported by the findings of a Muslim archaeologist. The maturity and unity of our country couldn't have been depicted in a more beautiful way. Now, as I said, of course, there are people who are not happy with the verdict, and there have been criticisms coming out. And yes, you guessed it right, these are not from the common people, but mainly from a few politicians and the so-called left liberals. Some of them are saying that it is a majoritarian decision. So does that mean that justice and fairness should never be given to a majority community? Another thing to remember is that just because the majority has won, it does not mean that secularism has been compromised or is in danger. According to me, it is truth and justice which should be at the forefront and not just secularism. Because if that happens, there is a danger that all decisions will go particularly towards the minority communities, whether they are fair or not. Is this a fair judgment, you might ask? According to me, given the circumstances, given the long history of the dispute, given the nature of the dispute, I feel that this is probably the most sanest judgment that the Supreme Court could have come up with. It has been fair to all the parties involved and has made sure that nobody has been overlooked. You can find some other video links in my description box below, which you might find helpful. If you want to know more about the disputes, more in detail about the history, please do go and check them out. Please do let me know in the comments what your opinions are, what your thoughts are regarding the verdict. I would love to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for being with me, as always. Do subscribe, like and share the video, and I will see you soon in the next one.